Welcome the rare gems and happy 2025. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Sigma females don't just stumble into their strength. They've earned it through years of lessons learned the hard way. As young women, they may have tolerated things, toxic relationships, disrespectful behavior, and compromises that chipped away at their peace. But as they grow, something shifts. They begin to understand that their time, energy, and peace are invaluable. What they once put up with becomes intolerable. By the time they've reached maturity, Sigma females have learned the power of walking away, of standing firm, of knowing their worth. They no longer waste energy on people or situations that don't deserve their attention. They don't settle for less than they deserve, and they've realized that tolerance without respect is just a slow form of self-betrayal. They won't beg, they won't chase, and they certainly won't make excuses for others. What they've gained over the years is an unshakable sense of self. And when they've had enough, they simply walk away with a quiet confidence that speaks louder than words ever could. This is the raw, unapologetic truth of the Sigma female. Watch the video to see what happens when they're done, and learn how their ruthless decision-making isn't just a reaction. It's a powerful statement of self-respect. Number 1. Turn cold and calculated. When a Sigma female reaches her breaking point, something shifts deep within her. She doesn't lash out, beg for understanding, or cling to what's no longer serving her. Instead, she becomes cold and calculated, shutting off her emotions like flipping a switch. It's not because she's heartless, it's because she's done giving her energy to something that doesn't deserve it. This isn't an impulsive reaction. By the time she reaches this state, she's already analyzed every angle, weighed every consequence, and exhausted every ounce of patience. She's tried, tolerated, and given more chances than most would. But when the cost to her peace outweighs the benefit of staying, her emotions take a back seat to logic. This detachment isn't about cruelty, it's about survival. She's not interested in appeasing others or softening the blow. She knows that her well-being depends on walking away without looking back. In this moment, she no longer cares how her actions are perceived. She's not trying to hurt anyone, but if her departure stings, so be it. It's this ability to prioritize herself that sets Sigma females apart. While others may crumble under guilt or emotional baggage, she stands firm. Her coldness is not an attack but a shield, a way to protect herself from further harm. She isn't here to please, she's here to thrive. When she turns cold and calculated, it's not an act of revenge or spite. It's a declaration of independence, a quiet yet powerful refusal to be controlled by her emotions or anyone else's expectations. This isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. It's the kind of resolve that leaves people stunned, wondering how someone can walk away so decisively and never look back. Number 2. Cut emotional ties while still in the room. When a Sigma female decides she's had enough, the exit doesn't start with packed bags or a final confrontation. It starts in her mind. Long before she physically walks away, she's already severed the emotional ties holding her to the situation. She can sit in the same room, hold a conversation, or even share a laugh, but mentally she's gone. It's not that she's pretending, it's that she's protecting herself. This detachment doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, one born from deep reflection and emotional exhaustion. She has likely spent countless moments weighing the pros and cons, questioning whether things could change and trying to make it work. But once she realizes it won't, she stops pouring her heart into a losing battle. From that moment on, every interaction becomes a formality, not a connection. This isn't coldness for the sake of it, it's self-preservation. By detaching emotionally first, she ensures that when the time comes to leave, she won't be held back by lingering doubts or misplaced guilt. It's a strategic move, one that allows her to reclaim her strength while still being present enough to tie up loose ends. This quiet withdrawal is something most people don't even notice until it's too late. By the time they realize she's no longer invested, the relationship is already over in her mind. And when she finally decides to leave, there's no dramatic goodbye, just an unshakable resolve that leaves no room for second guessing. For a Sigma female, This ability to detach emotionally while still being physically present is her way of ensuring clarity. It's her way of taking control, of leaving on her terms, and of walking away with her head held high and her heart unburdened. Number 3, erase the past like it never existed. When a Sigma female decides to move on, she does so with a level of finality that's both stunning and unshakable. For her, erasing the past isn't a fleeting emotional reaction. It's a conscious act of reclaiming her peace. She doesn't just cut ties or block numbers. She rewrites her world as if the offending person was never part of it. It's not about revenge or bitterness. It's about drawing a clear line between who she was with them and who she's becoming without them. This isn't an impulsive decision. By the time she's ready to erase someone, she's already dissected the relationship, learned her lessons, and accepted the reality of what it was. There's no lingering hope, no what-if scenarios keeping her tied to the past. To her, carrying that emotional baggage is like dragging dead weight, and she refuses to let it slow her down. Her method is ruthless yet intentional. She removes reminders of that person from her life, photos, messages, keepsakes, anything that anchors her to a time she no longer wishes to revisit. But the real power lies in her mental shift. She doesn't just delete their number, she deletes their influence. Their words, their actions, their presence, all of it becomes irrelevant. It's as if they were never there. To outsiders, this might seem cold or harsh, but for a Sigma female, it's about survival. She's not interested in keeping scars open for the sake of nostalgia. Her focus is on moving forward, unburdened and unshaken. And once she's erased the past, there's no reopening that chapter. For her, it's closed, locked, and forgotten, allowing her to step fully into the next phase of her life without looking back. Number 4, expose weaknesses without mercy. When a Sigma female has been pushed to her breaking point, her silence transforms into something far more powerful: brutal honesty. She doesn't explode in rage or resort to petty insults. Instead, she holds up a mirror, forcing people to confront their own flaws through her unfiltered perspective. Her insights are sharp and cutting, stripping away any illusions they might have about themselves. This isn't done out of spite or malice. It's a reaction born from frustration, a response to being pushed too far for too long. She's typically reserved and introspective, preferring to observe rather than engage in unnecessary conflicts. But when someone crosses her boundaries one too many times, she shifts gears and her words hit like a hammer breaking glass. What makes her approach so impactful is her precision. She doesn't lash out randomly or speak without thinking. Her delivery is calculated, and every word is chosen with intent. She exposes the weaknesses others try to hide, pointing out the inconsistencies, insecurities, and hypocrisies they might not even admit to themselves. And she doesn't sugarcoat her message. She delivers it with an unapologetic directness that leaves no room for misinterpretation. This kind of honesty can be devastating for those on the receiving end. It's not just that she's revealing their flaws. It's that she's doing so in a way that makes them undeniable. Her observations hit so deeply because they're rooted in truth that others often avoid confronting. For her, this isn't about revenge or power. It's about drawing a line in the sand and refusing to be dismissed or disrespected. When she exposes someone's weaknesses, it's a final warning, a way of saying, "You've pushed me too far, and now you'll see what I see." And once she's spoken, there's no going back. At number 5, kill the connection, not the person. When a Sigma female decides she's done, her approach is strikingly different. She doesn't waste time with dramatic confrontations or petty acts of revenge. Instead, she does something far more impactful. She kills the connection. It's not about destroying the person or seeking retribution. It's about removing their influence over her life entirely. This isn't driven by kindness or forgiveness. It's about self-preservation. A Sigma female knows her energy is finite, and she refuses to waste it on people or situations that no longer serve her. By severing the bond, she creates an emotional distance that protects her from further hurt or manipulation. It's not that she doesn't feel the sting of betrayal or disappointment, she does. But instead of letting it consume her, she channels that energy into cutting ties cleanly and decisively. What's remarkable is how thorough she is in this process. She doesn't just walk away physically, she detaches mentally and emotionally. She removes the person from her thoughts, her plans, and her future. Their role in her life is erased, and she moves forward without looking back. This level of detachment can be unsettling for those on the receiving end. They might expect anger, arguments, or attempts at reconciliation. But a Sigma female doesn't give them that satisfaction. Her silence speaks volumes, making it clear that the relationship is over, not because of hate, but because it's no longer worth her time. Her approach isn't about being passive or avoiding conflict, it's about choosing where to invest her energy. By killing the connection instead of the person, she frees herself to focus on what truly matters: her own growth, happiness, and peace of mind. And once she's moved on, there's no reopening that door. Number 6, use the experience as fuel. For a Sigma female, every betrayal or disappointment is more than just a painful moment. It's a lesson, a building block for the next chapter of her life. While others may crumble under the weight of emotional setbacks, she takes that same energy and turns it into fuel. It's not about denial or pretending it didn't hurt. She acknowledges the pain, but she refuses to let it break her. Each negative experience becomes part of her arsenal. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, she examines it with a sharp, analytical eye. She picks apart the situation, asking herself what she missed, where she could have acted differently, and, most importantly, what it reveals about others and about herself. These insights aren't wasted. They're carefully stored and used to fortify her inner world. This process makes her boundaries stronger and her mindset even more unshakable. She doesn't just rebuild, she upgrades. Her tolerance for nonsense decreases, her ability to spot red flags sharpens, and her resolve to protect her peace becomes ironclad. The person who comes out on the other side of betrayal isn't the same as before. She's more resilient, more self-aware, and more strategic. What makes her approach so powerful is her refusal to play the victim. She doesn't seek pity or validation. Instead, she quietly takes the lesson, applies it, and keeps moving forward. The people who thought they'd broken her often watch in disbelief as she rises stronger, smarter, and even more determined. For her, these experiences aren't setbacks, they're stepping stones. Every wound, every disappointment becomes part of the foundation she's building, one that's designed to be untouchable. And by the time she's done, she's not just surviving. She's thriving, driven by the very experiences that were meant to hold her back. Number 7, redraw her boundaries overnight. When a Sigma female reaches her limit, the change in her demeanor is swift and unapologetic. The boundaries that may have once been pliable or open to negotiation are redrawn overnight, this time with no room for compromise. What was once a soft maybe becomes an unflinching no. Her patience has run out, and she no longer tolerates anything that threatens her peace or sense of self. This isn't an act of rebellion or a sudden whim. It's a calculated decision. She's given enough chances, extended enough grace, and ignored enough red flags. Now, her boundaries are as solid as steel, and she doesn't flinch when people struggle to adjust to the new reality. Their discomfort is not her concern. If they've benefited from her previous flexibility, that chapter is closed. Her shift isn't loud or dramatic, it's firm and absolute. She no longer explains herself or feels the need to justify her decisions. The people in her life are left with two options: respect her new rules or step aside. For her, it's not about punishing others, but protecting herself. The abruptness of this change often catches people off guard. They may try to argue, guilt trip, or test her resolve, but they'll quickly realize it's futile. Once her mind is made up, there's no turning back. She's not interested in debate or negotiation. Her boundaries are now non-negotiable. For the Sigma female, this transformation is liberating. By redrawing her boundaries, she reclaims her power and ensures she never has to compromise her values or self-worth again. It's her way of saying, I've had enough, and I'm not bending anymore. And once those boundaries are in place, they're immovable. At number 8, refuse to compromise. Once a Sigma female has drawn her line in the sand, there's no crossing it. Compromise becomes a foreign concept to her. She's been through too much, learned too many lessons, and shaped herself into someone who knows exactly what she stands for. Her values and beliefs aren't up for discussion or debate. They're the bedrock of who she is. If you want to be a part of her life, you either respect those values or you don't. She's not afraid to walk away from situations, people, or opportunities that require her to lower her standards or compromise on her integrity. That's the thing about Sigma females. They know their worth and refuse to settle for anything less. They don't need validation from anyone to confirm that their way is the right way. What works for them works, and if it doesn't work for you, that's not their problem. This level of conviction can make some people uncomfortable. They're used to negotiating, manipulating, or persuading others into compromises. But the Sigma female, she won't bend. She doesn't care how badly someone wants her to conform, and she won't apologize for her strength. Her boundaries are non-negotiable, and her self-respect is untouchable. When others try to push her, to test her limits, they quickly realize there's no budging. What she's built, what she believes in, is rock solid, and that's what makes her unstoppable. Sigma females don't need to settle for anything less than exactly what aligns with their truth. They stand tall, unwavering, unapologetic, and know that the right people will respect their boundaries, and those who don't, well, they weren't meant to be in her world anyway. Number 9. Start being brutally honest. When a Sigma female has had enough, her honesty becomes her weapon. If you've pushed her too far, you're about to hear truths you may not be ready for. She won't hold back or soften her words out of concern for your feelings. What you'll get is an unfiltered, raw version of reality, and it's not for the faint of heart. She's done playing nice, and the sugar-coating, it's gone. The niceties people rely on to avoid discomfort vanish, and what remains is brutal, unapologetic honesty. She'll lay out everything she's been holding back, the things no one else dares to say because they're afraid of the fallout. But for the Sigma female, the fallout is nothing compared to the relief of releasing the truth. There's something powerful in her directness. It's not about being cruel, it's about clearing the air and taking control of her peace. She's tired of tiptoeing around uncomfortable conversations and pretending things are fine when they're not. If you've been disrespectful, dishonest, or manipulative, expect her to call it out, and expect it with precision. She won't sugarcoat the facts, and the sting of her words might be far more cutting than any argument you could have. The thing people often forget is that Sigma females have been observing, analyzing, and taking mental notes. When they finally speak, it's not impulsive, it's strategic. They've built a case in silence, and when they're done, they'll lay it all out with laser-like accuracy. If you're not prepared to hear the truth, it's best to step back. But when a Sigma female is ready to speak, she does so without hesitation, and it will leave an impact far beyond what any confrontation could. At number 10, examine your worth to them. When a Sigma female decides she's had enough, her approach shifts from emotional to clinical. She steps back, puts her feelings aside, and begins to evaluate the relationship with a cold, dispassionate lens. She'll break it down, every conversation, every action, every moment shared, and assess whether you truly deserve a place in her life. It's not about grudges or revenge. It's about getting clear on what's been adding value and what's been draining her. She'll look at the effort you've put in, the respect you've shown, and whether you've been a genuine partner or just someone occupying space. If there's been manipulation, inconsistency, or a lack of reciprocity, she'll see it. And once she does, she won't hesitate to remove you from her life, not with anger, but with the finality of someone who's reached a conclusion. To her, once you've crossed a line, you're no longer worth the energy or thought. She won't waste time mourning or even rehashing what went wrong. You'll simply fade into the background of her life, erased as easily as an irrelevant detail in a book she's finished reading. No drama, no emotional turmoil, just a clean break. Sigma females have a unique ability to detach mentally and emotionally once they've made up their minds. If they've concluded that you don't deserve any more of their time or energy, they won't hesitate to cut you out without a second thought. They know their worth, and they'll never settle for anyone who doesn't meet the standard. Once they're done, you become a shadow in their past, irrelevant and forgotten, as they continue moving forward with clarity and purpose. Number 11. Double down on self-sufficiency. When a Sigma female is let down, she doesn't wallow in disappointment or seek validation from others. Instead, she doubles down on her self-sufficiency, turning the sting of betrayal or unreliability into a driving force for her independence. For her, the lesson is simple. The only person she can fully rely on is herself. This isn't a dramatic reaction or a declaration of mistrust. It's a calculated decision. She's already naturally independent, but moments of disappointment sharpen her focus. She shifts her energy toward making herself even more capable, more resourceful, and more untouchable. Whether it's mastering a new skill, securing her finances, or building a life that runs entirely on her own terms, she becomes hyper-focused on ensuring no one can ever hold power over her again. Her self-sufficiency isn't born out of bitterness, but out of clarity. She sees the cracks in dependency and refuses to let herself fall through them. She doesn't give second chances to unreliable people or wait around hoping someone will change. Instead, she takes matters into her own hands, ensuring that her happiness, security, and success don't rest on anyone else's shoulders. What's striking is how seamlessly she executes this shift. There's no fanfare, no need to prove a point to anyone. She quietly redirects her efforts toward her own growth, turning every letdown into an opportunity to become even stronger. For those who underestimate her, it's a wake-up call. They might have thought she needed them, but her actions prove otherwise. When she leans into her independence, she becomes untouchable, thriving on her own terms and showing the world that she was never truly reliant on anyone to begin with. When a Sigma female reaches her breaking point, it's not a sign of weakness, but of strength. Her ruthlessness isn't about cruelty, it's about self-preservation, clarity, and stepping into her power. She doesn't crumble or get lost in the chaos. Instead, she rises, recalibrates, and makes decisions that protect her peace and prioritize her growth. Being a Sigma female means carrying a quiet but unshakable resilience. It means knowing when enough is enough and refusing to settle for less than what you deserve. It's about drawing boundaries, reclaiming your energy, and owning your worth without hesitation or guilt. The path isn't always easy, and the world may not always understand your choices, but that's the beauty of being a Sigma. You don't need their approval. If you're a Sigma female, remember this. Your strength lies in your ability to adapt, to walk away, and to rebuild, no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. Every ruthless decision you make to protect yourself is an act of courage and self-respect. Never apologize for valuing your peace, your energy, or your time. Keep walking your path, even if it's lonely at times. The right people will respect your boundaries and admire your independence. And when the world underestimates you, let your actions, your resilience, and your unapologetic pursuit of your best self prove them wrong. You are a Sigma female because you don't just survive, you thrive. You learn, grow, and evolve with every challenge, becoming stronger and more unstoppable with each step. Own that power, and if this resonates with you, stay tuned for more insights that celebrate your uniqueness and strength. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue exploring what makes Sigma females extraordinary. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now, and God bless.